Welcome to my channel. What if the voice that has criticized you for years was never your voice at all? What if the fear you carry, the guilt you feel, and the constant need to prove yourself were learned inside a place that was supposed to make you feel safe? Stay until the end, because this is not a story about blaming parents. It is a story about understanding what happened, finding your identity, and discovering how one person can stop a painful family pattern from controlling an entire future. Many people grow up believing that a difficult home is simply normal. They learn to smile when they are hurting, stay quiet when they disagree, and apologize even when they did nothing wrong. They become experts at reading moods, avoiding arguments, and hiding their feelings. Then they grow older and wonder why simple criticism feels huge, why saying no creates guilt, or why peaceful relationships sometimes feel unfamiliar. The first turning point comes when you realize that surviving a difficult childhood does not mean you were never hurt. A child can love a parent and still be wounded by that parent's behavior. Both truths can exist together. You can remember sacrifices and still remember painful moments. You can feel gratitude and still recognize unhealthy treatment. You do not have to choose between honesty and love. The second turning point arrives when you understand the difference between correction and humiliation. Every child makes mistakes. Healthy guidance says, "You made a poor choice, but you can learn." Toxic shame says, "There is something wrong with you." Those messages create completely different futures. When a child repeatedly hears that they are stupid, useless, disappointing, or impossible to love, the words can become an invisible script inside the mind. Years later, the parent may say nothing, yet the adult continues the criticism alone. That is why healing begins by questioning the voice inside your head. Is it really your belief, or is it an old sentence you learned before you were old enough to challenge it? The third turning point is discovering that confidence can be damaged without your abilities disappearing. Maybe you were compared with other children until you stopped celebrating your own progress. Maybe every achievement was treated as ordinary, while every mistake became a family discussion. You learned to expect criticism instead of encouragement. You became afraid of trying because failure felt dangerous. But confidence is not something you permanently lose. It can be rebuilt through small promises kept to yourself, small risks taken bravely, and small moments where you choose your own judgment instead of waiting for permission. Your past may explain your hesitation, but it does not have to decide your future. The fourth turning point comes when you stop confusing control with love. Protection says, "I care about your safety." Control says, "You must live exactly as I want." Guidance offers direction while leaving room for growth. Control demands obedience and treats independence like betrayal. Children need rules, but they also need the chance to develop judgment. As they grow, they need room to choose friends, explore interests, express opinions, and discover who they are. When every choice is monitored, a child may become obedient on the outside while becoming frightened and disconnected inside. Love should prepare someone to stand on their own, not teach them that freedom is dangerous. The fifth turning point happens when emotional pressure is finally recognized for what it is. A child may hear, "After everything I sacrificed, how can you do this?" Or, "If you really loved me, you would obey." Such words can turn affection into a debt. The child starts believing that keeping everyone happy is their responsibility. They abandon their own needs to prevent anger, sadness, or disappointment. But another person's emotions are not a life sentence for you. You can care about someone without carrying every feeling they experience. Respect does not require surrendering your entire identity. Real love leaves room for honest disagreement. The sixth turning point arrives when you understand that physical violence is never made healthy by calling it discipline. Fear may produce immediate obedience, but fear does not teach trust. A child who expects pain may learn to hide mistakes instead of learning from them. They may become silent, anxious, angry, or constantly alert. If you experienced violence, remember this clearly. What happened was not proof that you deserved it. You deserved safety, guidance, patience, and protection. Healing does not require pretending the harm was acceptable. It begins when the truth is allowed to have a name. If danger is still present, reaching a trusted adult, counselor, teacher, relative, or appropriate local support service can be an important step towards safety. The seventh turning point is realizing that difficult family patterns can follow you into relationships. Your earliest example of love teaches your mind what feels familiar. If affection came with fear, you might mistake emotional chaos for passion. If approval had to be earned, you might chase people who make you prove your worth. If your choices were always controlled, you might accept controlling behavior because it feels strangely familiar. This does not mean you're destined to repeat anything. It means awareness gives you a chance to choose differently. Before trusting someone deeply, ask yourself whether you feel respected, heard, safe, and free to be honest. Familiar does not always mean healthy. Sometimes healing begins when you stop choosing what feels familiar and start choosing what feels peaceful. The eighth turning point appears when you understand that a family's public image can hide private pain. Some parents seem wonderful to neighbors, relatives, or friends while behaving completely differently at home. A child may hear, "Never tell anyone what happens here," and learn that protecting the family's reputation is more important than protecting their own feelings. This creates loneliness. The world sees a happy family, while the child quietly wonders whether anyone would believe them. But truth does not become false because other people cannot see it. You do not need to expose every private detail to everyone, but you do need safe places where honesty is possible. Silence may protect an image, but honest support protects a person. The ninth turning point comes when you stop believing that another adult's betrayal is your responsibility. When parents fight, separate, or break trust, children often feel caught between them. They may wonder whether they caused the conflict or whether they must choose sides. They may become emotional messengers, secret keepers, or comforters for adults who should be protecting them. But children are not responsible for repairing adult relationships. They should never be used as weapons in family conflict. They deserve reassurance that adult decisions are not their fault. When parents protect children from unnecessary details and conflict, they give them something precious: permission to remain children. The 10th turning point is discovering the power of personal space. Healthy space is not rejection. It is room to breathe, think, rest, and grow. A child who is constantly questioned may eventually stop sharing because every answer becomes another investigation. A teenager who has no privacy may learn secrecy rather than trust. A growing adult needs opportunities to make decisions and learn from consequences. Space allows identity to develop. It teaches responsibility instead of dependence. You can love family members while needing quiet time, privacy, and independent thoughts. A home becomes healthier when closeness does not require constant control. The 11th turning point is learning that boundaries are not insults. A boundary is simply a clear statement about what you can accept and what you cannot. Please do not speak to me through insults. I need time before continuing this conversation. I will make this decision myself. These statements do not automatically mean hatred. They can mean self-respect. People who benefited from your silence may become uncomfortable when you become clear. They may say, "You changed." Perhaps you did. Perhaps you are finally learning that peace cannot be built by abandoning yourself. A boundary is not revenge. It is a protective line that helps relationships become safer. The 12th turning point comes when healing becomes an active choice instead of a distant dream. Healing begins with naming reality. You can write down what happened, what you felt, what you needed, and what you want now. You can notice the difference between an old family message and your present truth. Instead of saying, "I am worthless," you can say, "I was treated in ways that damaged my confidence, but my worth was never removed." Instead of, "I must keep everyone happy," you can say, "I can be caring without abandoning myself." If painful memories remain intense, professional counseling or therapy can provide a safe place to process them. Asking for help is not weakness. It is courage with direction. The 13th turning point is grieving the childhood you wanted, but did not receive. This part can hurt deeply, because sometimes the greatest sadness is not only what happened, but what should have happened and did not. Maybe you wanted a parent who listened. Maybe you wanted encouragement after failure. Maybe you wanted someone to protect you when you were afraid. Maybe you wanted simple words like, "I believe in you." You cannot travel backward and rewrite those years, but you can stop pretending the missing pieces never mattered. Grief can make space for acceptance. Acceptance does not say the past was good. It says the past happened, and now your energy can slowly move toward building something healthier. The 14th turning point is realizing that you can become the person you once needed. You can learn to speak gently without becoming weak. You can correct mistakes without humiliation. You can listen without immediately judging. You can say sorry when you are wrong. You can respect another person's boundaries even when you dislike their decision. If you become a parent one day, you can choose a different pattern. If you never become a parent, you can still change the way you treat friends, partners, coworkers, and yourself. The cycle does not end because you hate the people who started it. It ends because you refuse to continue it. The 15th and final turning point is the moment you understand that your past is part of your story, but it is not the author of your ending. You may carry scars, but scars are evidence that something happened, not proof that you are permanently damaged. You can build confidence slowly. You can choose healthier relationships. You can protect your peace. You can learn to trust yourself. You can become financially, emotionally, and personally stronger. Most importantly, you can decide that the pain stops moving forward through you. Imagine a family tree where fear has traveled from one generation to another, passed down through shouting, shame, control, silence, and emotional distance. Then one person pauses and says, "This ends here." That person may still struggle. They may still make mistakes. They may still need healing, but they become the first interruption in the pattern. Their future children may hear encouragement instead of humiliation. Their relationships may contain conversation instead of threats. Their home may feel safe instead of unpredictable. That is how change begins, not with perfection, but with one brave decision repeated every day. If you grew up in a painful home, do not let anyone convince you that healing means becoming cold. You can become soft without becoming easy to control. You can forgive without reopening every door. You can love without accepting abuse. You can respect your family without sacrificing your identity. And you can create a peaceful future, even if peace was missing from your childhood. The strongest response to a painful past is not revenge. It is transformation. One day, you may look at the life you built and realize something extraordinary. The person who once wondered whether they were worthy of love became someone who finally knew how to give and receive healthy love. The child who was silenced learned to speak. The child who was controlled learned to choose. The child who was shamed learned self-respect. The child who felt alone learned how to create safe connections. And the child who feared repeating the past became the person who ended it. That is not weakness. That is courage. Your history may explain your wounds, but it does not own your future. Your family may have shaped your beginning, but your choices can shape what comes next. Start small. Speak honestly. Protect your safety. Seek support. Learn boundaries. Treat yourself with patience. And when the old voice says, "You will always be this way," answer quietly, "No, I am learning a new way." Then keep walking, because you are not required to carry every painful lesson forever. Some lessons are meant to teach you, not imprison you. And perhaps the most inspiring truth is this: you do not have to become what hurt you. You can become what heals you. The first step toward freedom is often the hardest, because it asks you to question the rules you were taught to obey without thinking. You may have learned to read every face in the room, measure every word, and hide every feeling because one small mistake could bring anger, guilt, or rejection. But one day, something changes. You begin to notice that peace built on fear is not peace at all. That realization becomes the first turning point. You stop asking, "How can I avoid upsetting everyone?" and begin asking, "What do I need to feel safe and healthy?" That question may feel selfish at first, especially if you were raised to believe your needs always came last. But caring for yourself is not selfish. It is the beginning of rebuilding a life that belongs to you. The second turning point arrives when you understand that your parents' emotions are not your job to control. If they are angry, you cannot always fix it. If they are disappointed, you cannot always remove their disappointment. If they choose silence, you cannot force them to speak. You can respond with respect, but you do not have to carry every emotion placed on your shoulders. This is where guilt begins to lose its power. You realize that being a good son or daughter does not mean becoming responsible for another adult's happiness. The third turning point comes when you stop confusing obedience with love. Perhaps you were taught that saying yes proves respect, while saying no proves rebellion. But mature love allows disagreement. A healthy relationship can survive different opinions. You can say, "I understand your advice, but I need to make this decision myself." You can listen without surrendering your entire identity. Gratitude does not require self-destruction. The fourth turning point is recognizing the difference between privacy and secrecy. If you grew up in a home where every message, friendship, dream, or decision was questioned, you may feel guilty for keeping anything to yourself. Yet, healthy privacy is part of becoming an adult. You are allowed to protect personal information from people who repeatedly misuse it. Privacy is not betrayal. It is a healthy part of personal identity.
The fifth turning point happens when you stop waiting for the perfect apology. This can be one of the most painful lessons. You may spend years imagining the day someone finally says, "I was wrong. I hurt you. You deserve better." Your healing cannot depend entirely on another person becoming self-aware. You can acknowledge what happened without waiting for permission to move forward. You can grieve the apology you deserved and still choose peace. Your healing belongs to you. The sixth turning point arrives when you stop measuring your worth through achievement. Toxic criticism can make people believe they must constantly prove themselves. They chase perfect grades, perfect jobs, perfect relationships, and perfect appearances, hoping success will finally silence the old voice saying they are not enough. But achievement cannot permanently repair a wound created by rejection. You are worthy before the trophy, before the salary, before the approval. Success should become an expression of your growth, not evidence that you deserve to exist. The seventh turning point is learning to recognize safe people. After years of chaos, calm may feel suspicious. A respectful person may seem strange because you are used to being questioned, criticized, or controlled. Watch actions instead of promises. Safe people do not demand instant trust. They respect your no. They listen when you speak. They do not punish you for having feelings. They can disagree without trying to destroy your confidence. The eighth turning point comes when you stop chasing people who make you prove your value. You may have learned that love must be earned through endless effort. So, you overgive, apologize first, accept poor treatment, and stay when leaving would protect you. But real connection does not require constant performance. You should not have to beg someone to respect you. Love should have room for honesty, dignity, and mutual effort. The ninth turning point is choosing your response instead of repeating the reaction you learned as a child. Maybe anger was answered with shouting. Maybe fear was answered with silence. Maybe disagreement was answered with punishment. You can interrupt that pattern. When you feel triggered, pause, breathe, step away, think, then speak. This pause may seem small, but it can change your future. You are teaching yourself that emotion does not have to become destruction. You can feel deeply and still choose wisely. That is real strength. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It is about becoming clear enough to protect your heart without losing your kindness inside. The 10th turning point begins when you realize that healing does not require you to hate your family. You can tell the truth about what happened without turning your heart into a prison of anger. This distinction can change everything. You may still love someone who hurt you, and you may also decide that their behavior cannot continue in your life. Both truths can exist together. Love does not erase consequences, and forgiveness does not require unlimited access. Sometimes forgiveness means releasing the hope that the past could have been different, so you can finally give your energy to the life that is still waiting for you. The 11th turning point comes when you understand that distance can sometimes be healthy. Not every relationship can be repaired through one conversation. Some people listen only when they realize you are serious about your boundaries. Others may never accept responsibility. If contact repeatedly leaves you frightened, humiliated, or emotionally exhausted, creating distance may become necessary. Distance does not automatically mean hatred. Sometimes distance is simply a way to stop reopening a wound while you learn how to heal. The goal is not revenge. The goal is safety, stability, and a future where your decisions are not controlled by fear. The 12th turning point happens when you stop waiting for your childhood to return and start creating the childhood you wish you had through the way you live today. Maybe you never heard gentle words, so you learn to speak gently to yourself. Maybe nobody celebrated your small victories, so you learn to celebrate them. Maybe nobody gave you patience, so you practice patience with yourself. Maybe you were punished for making mistakes, so you begin treating mistakes as lessons instead of proof that you are worthless. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can change what yesterday produces inside tomorrow. The 13th turning point comes when you discover that your future relationships do not have to look like your past. You can choose friends who respect you. You can choose a partner who communicates instead of manipulating. You can build a home where children are corrected without humiliation, where questions are welcomed, where mistakes are discussed calmly, and where love is never used as a threat. You can become the person you once needed. This is one of the greatest forms of healing because your past stops being only a source of pain and becomes a reason to create something better. Imagine a future child sitting across from you after making a mistake. Instead of hearing, "You are useless," they hear, "What happened? Let us figure it out together." Instead of fear, they feel safety. Instead of shame, they learn responsibility. That future begins with the choices you make today. The 14th turning point arrives when you realize that being different from your family does not make you disloyal. Sometimes growth looks like becoming the first person in your family to communicate differently. Apologize honestly, seek help, set boundaries, or choose peace. People may misunderstand you because your growth changes the role they expected you to play. If you are always the quiet one, your voice may surprise them. If you are always the one who apologized, your boundaries may feel shocking. If you are always available, your need for space may be criticized. But becoming healthier can make old patterns uncomfortable. That discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong. It may mean the pattern is finally being challenged. Then comes the 15th and most important turning point. You realize your story does not have to end where your pain began. The person who hurt you may have influenced your beginning, but they do not own your ending. Your childhood may explain some of your fears, but it does not have to control your future. You can learn, you can change, you can ask for help, you can build confidence one decision at a time. You can become emotionally stronger without becoming emotionally hard. You can become independent without becoming cruel. You can love people without allowing them to destroy you. Most importantly, you can stop asking, "Why did they make me feel this way?" and begin asking, "What kind of life do I want to build now?" That question moves you from helplessness toward possibility. Your past deserves understanding, but your future deserves attention. There may still be difficult days. A memory may suddenly return. A familiar tone of voice may bring back old fear. A criticism may make you feel like the child you once were. When that happens, do not attack yourself. Remind yourself, I am here now. I am older. I have choices. I can pause. I can leave. I can ask for help. I do not have to repeat the old response. Every time you respond differently, you create a new path in your mind. Every healthy decision becomes evidence that you are changing. Every boundary becomes a message that your life has value. Every act of self-respect becomes another brick in the foundation of your new life. Healing also means accepting that progress is not always dramatic. Sometimes progress is simply not answering an insulting message immediately. Sometimes it is taking a breath before reacting. Sometimes it is saying no without explaining yourself for an hour. Sometimes it is choosing sleep instead of another argument. Sometimes it is realizing that someone else's anger does not automatically mean you did something wrong. These small moments may look ordinary from the outside, but inside they represent enormous victories. The person who once lived in survival mode is learning how to live with intention, and slowly, something beautiful happens. The voice inside your head becomes kinder. The fear becomes quieter. Your decisions become clearer. You begin to notice what feels safe and what feels dangerous. You stop chasing approval from people who cannot give it. You begin trusting your own judgment. You start discovering interests, dreams, and strengths that were hidden beneath years of criticism. You realize you are more than the role your family gave you. You are not only someone's child, you are a complete human being with your own values, abilities, hopes, and future. And perhaps the most powerful discovery is this: you do not need to become perfect to prove that you survived. You do not need to become rich, famous, successful, or admired to prove that they were wrong about you. Your peace is enough. Your growth is enough. Your honesty is enough. Your life does not need to become a performance for the people who once made you feel small. Build it because you deserve to experience what a healthy life feels like. And when you finally begin living that way, something inside you becomes quiet. Not because the past disappeared, but because the past no longer controls every decision. You have learned to carry the lesson without carrying the chains. Now comes the part that matters most: what you do with everything you have learned. Understanding your past is powerful, but understanding alone will not build your future. At some point, you must decide that your pain will not be the author of your next chapter. You may have been raised around criticism, control, fear, silence, or emotional pressure, but you can choose a different way of living. You can wake up one morning and decide that the voice that once told you you are not enough will no longer make your decisions. You can choose to speak to yourself with patience. You can choose people who respect your limits. You can choose work that gives you purpose. You can choose relationships where honesty is safe. You can choose a home where peace is normal. This does not mean everything will suddenly become easy. Healing is not a straight road. Some days you will feel strong, and other days an old memory may make you feel small again. Do not mistake a difficult day for failure. A storm returning does not mean you have returned to the beginning. Sometimes healing simply means you now know how to stand inside the storm without becoming the storm. You know when to pause. You know when to leave an argument. You know when to ask for help. You know when someone's behavior is not your responsibility. You know that you can feel hurt without destroying yourself. You know that you can love without surrendering your identity. That knowledge is a kind of freedom. There is another truth you must carry with you. You are allowed to build a life your younger self would have felt safe inside. Imagine the child you once were standing beside you today. That child does not need a perfect life. That child needs to know that someone finally cares. Look at that child in your imagination and ask, what did you need most? Maybe the answer was safety. Maybe it was encouragement. Maybe it was someone who listened. Maybe it was permission to make mistakes. Maybe it was a simple sentence, you are loved even when you are not perfect. Now, give yourself those things. Give yourself patience when you make mistakes. Give yourself rest when you are exhausted. Give yourself permission to grow slowly. Give yourself the right to change your mind. Give yourself a voice. Give yourself a future. You cannot go back and rescue the child you were from every painful moment, but you can stop abandoning that child inside you today. Every time you choose kindness over self-hatred, you are caring for that younger version of yourself. Every time you set a healthy boundary, you are protecting them. Every time you walk away from someone who repeatedly harms you, you are telling them, we are safe now. And that message can become stronger than the old fear. You also need to understand that breaking a family pattern does not mean becoming perfect. You may lose your patience. You may say the wrong thing. You may repeat a behavior you promised yourself you would never repeat. If that happens, do not use shame to correct yourself. Do what healthy people do. Recognize it, take responsibility, apologize when necessary, learn from it, and try again. The difference between a toxic pattern and a healthy pattern is not that healthy people never make mistakes. The difference is that healthy people can admit mistakes without turning them into weapons. They can repair instead of deny. They can listen instead of attack. They can say, I was wrong, without feeling that their entire identity has collapsed. This is the kind of strength you can create in your own life. If one day you become a parent, you can choose differently. If you already have children, you can still change the way you communicate with them. You can tell them when you are wrong. You can apologize. You can listen before judging. You can correct behavior without insulting their identity. You can teach responsibility without using humiliation. You can make your home a place where children do not have to hide their emotions to survive. And if you never become a parent, the cycle can still end through the way you treat friends, partners, coworkers, siblings, and yourself. Breaking the cycle is not about creating a perfect family. It is about refusing to make another person carry pain simply because you carried it. This is where your story becomes bigger than you. The healing you choose today can influence people you may never meet. A calmer person creates calmer relationships. A person who respects boundaries teaches others that boundaries are normal. A person who apologizes teaches others that mistakes can be repaired. A person who refuses manipulation makes manipulation less powerful. A person who chooses healthy love gives someone else permission to believe that healthy love exists. Your healing can become a quiet gift to the future. So if you are watching this and thinking, but I am still hurting, hear this carefully. You do not need to have everything figured out today. You only need one honest step. Maybe that step is writing down what happened. Maybe it is speaking to someone trustworthy. Maybe it is learning about boundaries. Maybe it is finding professional support. Maybe it is creating distance from a harmful situation when it is safe to do so. Maybe it is simply admitting to yourself that what happened mattered. One step is enough for today. Then tomorrow, take another. Your life can change through small decisions repeated with courage. Do not compare your healing with someone else's. You are not late. You are not weak because it takes time. You are not damaged beyond repair because your childhood was difficult. You are a person who learned to survive, and now you are learning to live. There is a difference. Survival asks, how do I get through today? Healing slowly begins asking, what kind of tomorrow do I want? That question is the beginning of hope. And maybe your biggest victory will not be making your parents understand you. Maybe it will be no longer needing their understanding to believe yourself. Maybe your greatest victory will not be receiving the apology you waited for. Maybe it will be giving yourself permission to stop waiting. Maybe your freedom will not come from changing someone else's personality. Maybe it will come from changing your relationship with your own worth. You finally understand that another person's inability to love you properly was never proof that you were unlovable. Their limitations were not your identity. Their anger was not your character. Their criticism was not your destiny. Their mistakes were not your future. You can carry the truth without carrying their judgment. You can remember without living inside the memory. You can honor where you came from without allowing it to decide where you are going. And when you look back one day, you may realize something unexpected. The hardest part of your story did not destroy your future. It taught you what must never be repeated. It showed you the value of kindness because you knew its absence. It showed you the importance of safety because you knew fear. It showed you the power of a gentle voice because you knew harsh words. It showed you why boundaries matter because you knew what happened when nobody respected them. Your pain does not have to become meaningless. You can transform its lesson into wisdom. You can turn survival into strength. You can turn silence into a voice. You can turn fear into awareness. You can turn shame into self-respect. You can turn a painful beginning into a peaceful future. So please remember this when you leave this video. Being hurt by your parents does not make you a bad child, and choosing to heal does not make you an ungrateful person. You can appreciate what was good and still acknowledge what was harmful. You can love someone and protect yourself from them. You can forgive and still maintain boundaries. You can respect family and still choose emotional safety. You can understand someone's history without excusing their behavior. Compassion does not require you to accept repeated harm. And if you are currently in danger or experiencing serious abuse, do not try to handle everything alone. Reach out to a trusted person or qualified professional and seek appropriate local help. Your safety comes first. Finally, I want you to remember one sentence. You are not the worst thing that happened to you. You are not the insults you heard. You are not the fear you carried. You are not the family role you were forced to play. You are not broken simply because someone failed to treat you with the love you deserved. There is still a future ahead of you, and you have more power over that future than your past ever had. Start small. Speak kindly to yourself. Choose safe people. Protect your peace. Learn from your mistakes. Ask for help when you need it. Walk away from what repeatedly destroys you when you safely can, and keep becoming the person you needed when you were younger. One day, you may look at your life and realize that the cycle really did end. Not because the past disappeared, but because it stopped controlling you. You became the person who chose peace where there had been fear, respect where there had been shame, honesty where there had been silence, and healthy love where there had been control. That is your victory. Not revenge, not proving anyone wrong, not becoming harder than the people who hurt you. Your victory is becoming free. Your story began with things you could not choose, but your future can be shaped by choices you make now. The home you grew up in may have influenced you, but it does not own you. Your past may explain your wounds, but it does not have permission to write your ending. You are still here. You are still learning. You are still capable of love. You are still capable of peace. And most importantly, you are still becoming. Let that be enough for today.